Wednesday LiveStream by Dulcimer Crossing. Today, we're going to take a look at the second part of articulations. Last week, we spent our time with mountain dulcimers and the sounds that can be made on the mountain dulcimer, how you get those different sounds in articulations. We're going to talk today about articulations on the hammered dulcimer, but before I do that, I want to just celebrate something. At Dulcimer Crossing, we sponsor live workshops every month, and we alternate between mountain and hammered dulcimer. And this week, we are very excited that to have Wendy Sange, who this is the blog post that I put in to here we go. We're going to watch the live video there on Facebook so I can comment. Yeah. Here is the blog post that gives you all the information. Wendy, as you may or may not know, has had to do a lot of new beginnings things in the past year, way beyond COVID. She had some health things that caused her to have to relearn how to learn. And we're excited that she's back with us and going to share with us on Thursday. Our workshops happen every month on Thursday, and this one is a mountain dulcimer focused one. However, all of her learnings about how to learn new things, how to learn to do new things or begin again is going to be useful for whatever instrument you want to play, or actually whatever pursuit's part of your life. There are three ways that you can be part of this workshop. One is members who are workshop and mentor level members of the Dulcimer Crossing website get access to this workshop as a part of the live events, as well as the archive video and all the other archive videos we have. Now, if you are, and this is all on the blog page, if you are a DIY member, but you want to upgrade just for this workshop, you can do that. You'll get a whole month's access of the workshop level. You can upgrade for the workshop and then return to your DIY level at any time. That's up to you. And the third way, and this is something new, is you can just click on the link to sign up for her workshop and you can have access to the workshop. You'll also get access to the video of her workshop, and that's without joining Dulcimer Crossing. So there's an a la carte way to do that, and that's new. We haven't had that before, so I'm excited to let you know about that. So that is the commercial for the workshop that's coming up tomorrow. So there's still time to get in on that. If you are a workshop member and cannot come at the time, it's going to be 5 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're outside of the confines of the United States time zones and you're in some other time zone, you get access to that video when it's up at your convenience. But for right now, what I want to do is move over to the hammer dulcimer and talk about articulations on the hammer dulcimer. So, one of the things I like to tell people is if you are someone whose mother used to tell you to stop drumming on the table after dinner, this is the perfect instrument for you because you get to bang on something and make music. So, the first thing is we're banging on something. We got strings that are stretched. And the way we excite the strings, this is physics language, we excite the strings and it gives a vibration, and the vibration is a certain measurable amount of hertz, and that produces a pitch that we recognize to have a note name. And when I do that with, this is the bright side of my hammers, there's no padding on this side, I get the sound. Now, if I play really close to the bridge, even if I'm not hitting the wood, you heard me hit the bridge cap once, there is a particular articulation sound of hitting the bridge cap. It's one I try not to use very often. If I go farther away from the string, I have the opportunity to actually hit not only the string I'm aiming for, but the one on the other bridge that's one above that one, or the one that's one below that one. That's a possibility. And I did have somebody, let's see, do I have a ruler in here? Sometime, there it is. Yes, I have a ruler in here. I had someone in a class who had taken a ruler from top to bottom, maybe a yardstick, but had colored black with a marker the string that you could not touch because it's going too low. And she had a straight line. I looked at it and said, "What? This is interesting." But it let her have a visual location of where I can go over here and I can hit this or this. But if I stay between here and here, I'm gonna just hit the string I'm aiming for. But customizing it, she did it on both sides. Um, Up in this direction, there's no valley, but down here there is a valley. And she had it on both sides of her instrument. So she was aiming to be able to articulate with one hammer two different notes and do that with accuracy. Now, generally, the tone is best and richest about an inch away or so. So if I'm going for the tone with my bright sides that doesn't have that bridge sound in it, now I'm not doing like a cat that puts its feet run right in front of the other. I'm doing it more like a dancing linebacker. Let's say it that way. Where both hands are kind of toeing in a little bit, aiming for that same spot, but I'm not going to hit it exactly the same spot. Now I know there are some of you who like to measure things and are really interested in where would that be? Where would that optimal place be? And I guess you're going to have to find that on your instrument, right? So one articulation is the space. How far away from the bridge am I going to use? That's going to affect the tone that comes from the way I articulate it. Now, the other thing is flipping the hammers over and using the padded side. I get a very bright sound when I use the unpadded side. It's a little bit less crisp when I use the other side. Now here's another set of hammers that has a much thinner suede than the other ones, but a very thick felt pad on the other side. And I call these, I have a student who is a college university student who lives in a dorm, and she said, "I texted all my neighbors to say I had a dulcimer lesson today. I hope they're going to be okay." I said, "Sounds like you need some dorm hammers that have this kind of a thick pad so that she can still play with vigor and with all the energy she wants, but not have it be so bright and I'm not going to say brittle, brassy. That's kind of the thing." Now, the reason that this is so important is if we try to not put as much energy in because we're worried about volume being or everything being too bright, we end up losing control of our articulation. And sometimes when we're first learning to play, we end up having a lot of multiple hits when we did not aim for that. However, if you're like me, one of the reasons to play this instrument is so you can have the multiple hits. Exactly. So another kind of articulation that has nothing to do with the tone or the head is, am I hitting it once, double, triple, quadruple, once, double, triple, quadruple, and can I control that? So that we end up with this ornament that happens with our articulation because we're, and it doesn't matter where we play on the instrument, we have the opportunity to have that our energy to excite the string, and then we can catch the hammer so it's a single hit. We can control the catch so we get double or triple or quadruple, or we can put those together to be a tremolo or a multiple bounce roll. You can play a single bounce roll, a double bounce roll, a triple bounce roll, a quadruple, and when you put those together, it can sound just like a drum roll. So my articulations tend to be, or I'm in articulating the sounds on the hammered dulcimer, I'm going to think about how far away from the bridge am I playing? What side of the hammer, what's the surface, striking surface? Do I want a single hit do I want a double? Do I want a triple? Do I want a quadruple? Do I want a tremolo? Do I want a roll? If it's going to be on the same pitch, that's going to be one thing. I can do a trill where I'm going up and coming back. That tends to be more like a flute ornamentation when I'm doing a trill like that. Now, there are two other ones I want to talk about. One is using your fingers. You don't even need hammers. This can be a plucked instrument. And I remember meeting, I'm going to forget his name, from Indiana, who had a book, one of the first Hammered Dulcimer books I bought, because it was about playing Celtic music like a Celtic harp. Except to do that, we're going to try it this way. I don't use these picks this way because let's see, I got to do this way. These are my guitar Mountain Dulcimer / auto harp picks that I'm using on my fingers right now. Let's do that. Let's find where the camera is. These are Fred Kelly Freedom picks. And if when I do play the chord shapes that I'm used to, that would be what I call Utah. Here's Mississippi, Utah, and a bow tie. I have one student call that Tennessee. Whoops. That's what can happen when you're using picks. Now, Princess Harris from Wichita has written a beautiful tune called In the Rain at Woodstock, which is completely plucked. And what she would sometimes introduce this saying is, because I'm plucking my hammered dulcimer and that's my job, my manicure is now a professional expense. And I thought, I love that justification. But she would use nails instead of external picks. Now, at this particular time, I don't have long enough nails or strong enough nails to do that, so I'm going to be using my fingertips. And that gives me the opportunity when I was in England, I met Fred Woodley, who builds a lot of dulcimers and plays them with watch springs. So he has the equivalent of guitar. It's metal. They're metal, but he has the equivalent of guitar picks, and that's how he plays. He started in and said, "This is the way I learned to play from my grandpa," and he just plucks out the chords. Now, what's also possible, because the pick can fit in the slot, I can get, and he would often play So I could articulate that using picks, or I can use all those other articulations I talked about when playing. So I can use hammers. I can use different surfaces on my hammers. I can find where I'm going to play that gives me a particular tone. I'm going to play a single hit, double hit, triple hit, quadruple hit, roll, tremolos. I can play with a pick. I can also bend. What I'm doing as I bend is bending increases the tension on the string, and by string physics, when I increase the tension, I raise the pitch. So if I want a bent note, I'm going to look for something that's between this one and this one. That's a whole step, because between a mark to an unmarked to an unmarked, always a whole step. If I want this note or something in between that note, I park myself below the note I want, and I put my finger halfway between the bridge and the outside nut, I'm going to call that, because that's the easiest place to push on the string and bend it. I push down. I can push down before I play, so I have, and release, so I can bend and release, or I can play. So it takes some getting used to in order to find those places. Joshua Messick is someone who does some plucking with one hand and hammering with the other hand. Princess Harris, I talked about, plucked all the strings. Dan Landrum is someone who likes to do a lot of bending. In his Hammer On CD with, oh shoot, who are all the people that are playing on that CD? I don't remember right now, but the Cluck Old Hen is one where he uses that. Last week we talked about Larry Conger's mountain dulcimer use of articulations, and Dan would use the articulations of the hammer dulcimer to get the cluck sound. Let's see. So even though I have a C right here, bum, 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 I can just play the note, or I can by pushing on the other side of the B, I can get all the notes in the cracks, which is what the human voice can do, what saxes and other wind instruments can do, what stringed instruments can do when we use the bend as our articulation. So those are the ways that we can articulate the sounds differently and specifically and for special effect, or to create whole atmospheres on the hammer dulcimer. If you have any comments or questions about that, please feel free to write them into the chat, because what we're talking about today is Articulations on the Hammered Dulcimer. Now, I gave you the commercial about Wendy's live workshop, but I also want to let you know about something else. And that is, here we go. That bending is going to be one of the things that we talk about in my class, my 6 weeks class, which begins next week, playing blues on the hammered dulcimer. So we're going to be looking at how the hammered dulcimer, which some people say is so pretty that it can't play blues, well, by knowing where to play, what are the patterns and chords, and these kinds of articulation options, we can actually do that pretty easy. It's also possible to do the same thing on mountain dulcimer, and so that's the other one of the other classes we'll be doing next week. And let's make sure, I want to change the sharing and share this screen because the mountain dulcimer class also starts next week, and we'll be doing the same thing. We're using a mountain dulcimer tuned DAD, but we're going to be over 6 weeks playing with all the different ways that it's very easy, while tuned in this way that we're more familiar with, to play in blues in many different keys. A couple others that I want to let you know about, that are dulcimer focused. My mountain dulcimer joy class, which is fingerstyle skills that we use the mountain dulcimer for. We're focusing on all the ability to get comfortable playing with many fingers, and there's focus on the fretting hand, there's focusing on the fingering hand. We're going to be using my book Dulcimer Joy, which is 30 different exercises of Beethoven's famous Ode to Joy tune, so that while we're doing these mechanical exercises, which can feel not musical at all, we're actually making music. We're, in addition, exploring the ways that we have some options for arranging just by how we pick with our right hand the melody that we know so well. There is another one that I want to let you know about. I'm telling you these because the deadline for registration for these classes is this Friday. It's coming right up. And we have another one, creating holiday arrangements for dulcimer solos and ensembles. Sometimes we don't live where there are people to play with, but we still want to arrange a tune and make it special. But we also might want to play with our hammer dulcimer friends if we're mountain dulcimer players, our mountain dulcimer friends if we're the hammer dulcimer players, or ensembles of either one or both. And so what our text is going to be my collection of 3- and 4-part arrangements for mixed dulcimer ensembles of both varieties. And it'll be a trilingual thing. It's for hammer dulcimers, mountain dulcimers tuned DAA and DAD. But we're also going to build some arrangements as well. We'll use that as our case study. And then there's one more, and I'll tell you more about this week, next week, because it's there's still more time to sign up for that. And that's my Advent evening prayer service. Right now, I want to let you know this is a guitar one. It's not dulcimer focused, but it's using familiar holiday tunes is our way to build melodic fingerstyle arrangements that are level 1, because sometimes it's hard to get over that hurdle to get to those. If you're interested in all of the classes, this has got all the classes listed on one page. And I'll add that into the chat. But you can see if any one of those are what's interesting for you. And thanks, Jim. I neglected to talk about the use of dampers, and you have asked me about that before many times. So that's They're sitting right here, and I didn't use them. So we have another thing to talk about. Thank you. Let me move back to the Hammered Dulcimer. See, this is why it takes a community to have one brain. So dampers are something that are present on some cousins of the Hammered Dulcimer around the world. On the American version or North American version, they're a more recent adaptation or addition. I remember first seeing this idea when John McCutcheon came to town, and he had put duct tape and then medical tape, because medical tape doesn't leave residue, but he just put some tape on both sides in order to play with a muted type sound where the damper was touching the strings but not stopping them. So it sounds more marimba-like when I play that way versus it stops some of the reverb that's the natural part of the Hammered Dulcimer. Now, if I just hold them down the whole time while I do that, I get that kind of mallet on wood sound, which is characteristic of marimba. But I could also play and stop. So I could play a whole phrase. So I've got a D chord. It's ringing. I stop everything in order to play my C chord, because the D and the C kind of crunch against each other. Or for a more even, let's do it this way. To play the half step away, by stopping the sound in between, that gives a chance for the new sounds that need to be there to have their own space and not just only walk in a room that's full of D sounds. So the dampers are designed in different ways. These are designed to come down onto the strings. Chris Voss is someone who's designed some dampers to be like a piano, where they're always down, and when you push on the pedal, you lift them up the same way you would on a piano. He's the one person who's doing it that way at this particular time. But the other thing, and this is something I know, Jim, you've asked about a lot of times, I will also use the dampers as a pulsing. And in that case, I'm just pulsing on the first and fourth beats, which are the jig kind of time. And in that case, I'm using it to help shape phrases by letting the phrase live and then stopping it before I head into the next place. So the dampers can be like an acoustic pulse. And if you have very loud dampers, I can hear a little bit of squeak. And I don't know if that's primarily the string going through or if it's the bending. Seems like it's more string. Yeah. Because when I push down from the top, I don't hear it. There's some others that use bicycle cables to do that kind of an idea. There's some others which have a spring in them, and I always hear the spring whenever it's moving, and that's not my chosen. That's not my preference. But dampers are the other way. Thank you for that reminder, Jim. I completely forgot about that. And to play rests. Yeah, when you're playing ensemble music, you might have 8 measures of rests, or you might have one. So at the beginning of Beethoven's finale of the Fifth Symphony, that the Finch Symphony? Actually, ba, ba, ba. Then we hold the chord at the end. And at the very end, there's a lot of those rests are very important. And stopping the sound is something that's harder on the hammered dulcimer and actually often underutilized skill. You might see some people diving on their dulcimer to stop things when they don't have dampers, but that's what they're aiming for, to be able to control that sound. And that is part of the articulation. So thank you for that reminder. And let's see, is there anything else? Yes, there is one other thing I want to call your attention to. This is the week of the Southern California Dulcimer Heritage annual fall harvest of dulcimers. Now, that's a mouthful, but that festival is going on this weekend. Aaron May and I are helping to provide tech support for it. Registration is closed, but and the festival concert is happening. Let's go Chrome tab, and the concert is going to be an online concert thing. It's Saturday night. It's 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. We have the excitement of having Jody Marshall joined by her fiddling friend Jim Queen. Jody's from the DC area. She's the Hammered Dulcimer headliner for this festival. Aubrey Atwater with her husband Elwood she is the Mountain Dulcimer headliner, and she'll be performing in the concert. And then Patty Emelot, who is a local teacher in Southern California, and Brenda Hunter will be playing in the concert, and also Joellen Lapidus. And tickets are available right now. They're available up to the concert time if you are someone who likes to do things at the last minute. But if you get your concert ticket now, then you'll receive an email with a reminder to you'll create an account to buy the ticket, and that's the account you need to log in with when it's time for the festival. And then you'd click on, like, I'm going to log in now. It's going to do this, and now it's going to say my concerts. Well, let's see if I've gotten a ticket for this one. There it is. There's my concerts. And so when it comes time, it's going to say, oops, it's going to say it hasn't come in. So I'm going to have to go make sure I have a ticket for that. See, this is a reminder for me too. All right. Well, thank you, friends, for joining me for this live stream. If you have more topics that you would like to make sure get covered in the future, please email me, steve@dulcimercrossing.com, with topic ideas and suggestions, and we'll be sure to make plans to work them all in. But until then, and I'll have something to show you next week from the site, but I will look forward to seeing you next week, and will bid you adieu.